just see what you guys have to type in. Right, so search Volokolamsk. Hopefully I spelt it right. Yeah, so I did a few of them. This is the one you should watch if you want to go through what I was, you know, referencing right now in this video. So this one right here, it was a year ago. That's crazy. But anyway, that was focusing on this area of the map, and at the end of it I did a flyover with the DO335, and I pretty much talked about how this whole area could be a map of itself, and I hoped that World War Mode would be able to take advantage of this, because you could have a point where at Petalino here, you could have a base for an ally, and then the enemy could have a base here at Znardova or whatever it is, and then you could fight over Neldovo, and then once you take that, this becomes the forward base, and then you have to take this, and if you take both, then you have to take the final base, and then the same over here. You know, do stuff like that in a World War Mode setting. That's basically what I talked about in that video. But it seems like with higher tiers coming, and faster vehicles, and obviously guns which have very good muzzle velocity over a very long range, what we're going to get is the whole maps instead of just in World War Mode, but also in this setting. I think this is completely fine. Volokolamsk for me is the perfect map for this, and it was pretty obvious once it was designed and once it was implemented. This is what it was designed for. It wasn't designed for the battle that we have, which is around like here right now, like around I-57, K-57, and the battle that we had around KM 7 to 13, like this area. What it was designed for was to be a whole map, and it's nice to see that at high tiers that's going to happen. This is going to be a huge map. Yes, there are a few issues with it, such as the North Hills, which a lot of people will sit at, but you can only take a defensive posture there, so moving forward you're going to have to annihilate the enemy team before you decide to push, which is completely fine. That's what you should do anyway. But yeah, that's going to be really fun. Eastern Europe is not going to be as good, and the reason for this is because it has areas that are very easy to exploit. The main battle will take place around C, basically the hill here, like this area here. Let's just check, am I blocking it? No, okay. So around D to E, 2 to 5, if you dominate this area, then what you get will be a complete coverage of the whole of the map. So whoever dominates C, or just above C, will be able to just pin down the enemy. It'll be very similar to what we have in Poland right now, where if you dominate the South Hill, then you will be able to just push through and annihilate everything. But it's nice to see more spread out maps in the same vein as Fulda, and also the other map that got added, Maginot Line. I really like these larger maps, especially at high tiers. I think they shouldn't be allowed at low tiers, and the majority of the time they're not. I don't think I've seen anything less than tier 3 being on something like Fulda Gap, but even then I think it should be rank 4 and up for these maps. Moving on, we have aircraft damage, model and characteristic and weaponry changes. Yes, this is going to be a long one. Yes, I should have told you to get some tea beforehand. So the A26, the aiming arcs for defensive armaments has been corrected. There definitely was an issue with the A26 where it was able to shoot through itself. A lot of turrets in the game have this issue, so it's nice to see that they fixed that. The MiG-315BK is getting a bit of a nerf, not really though. It's losing... let's see, it's losing 280 rounds to 145 rounds, so around about half its ammunition load on the guns on the wings. It is kind of annoying, for the MiG-315BK does have a decent amount of machine gun ammo. It just means that you won't be able to kill 5 or 6 planes, you'll only be able to kill about 4, but you still should be okay. The MiG-315 is not limited by the armaments that it has, it's limited by its lack of energy retention after 2 turns, but it's still a very good plane at the lower tiers. Ammunition for air targets is added to the American guns, the AN-M2s and the AN-M3s. So that's pretty much the Bearcats, the ADs, the Corsairs. Okay, It's going to be interesting to see what these air target belts are. If they're anything like the British ones with the Heffy Sappies, well, let's just say it may just tear apart a few people. The issue with it is obviously penetration values are very important, so if the penetration values aren't that high, then they'll be pretty useless. I still run default on the A&M freeze. I feel like that's the way to go. So, yeah, we're going to have to see what is added to that. The Universal Berezin machine gun is now divided. Okay. The IO-4, you can now create a custom camouflage. Great stuff. The Typhoon is getting, let's see, the ammunition of the machine guns of the 303 caliber have been changed. For the pair of external and internal guns, it is now 500 per machine gun and 460 for the central ones. So the outer machine guns will have more ammunition, but it's only 40 more than the inner ones. And the Typhoon Mark 1A has so much damn ammunition anyway. I don't think it will really make a difference. One of the reason why that aircraft fell out of favor for me, and so did the Typhoons with the cannons, was the fact that at high speeds, where it was so deadly, it just locks up. It locks up really hard, and its roll gets lost, its elevator doesn't want to work anymore, its rudder gives up, and that means that you can't do the dives that you can do in something like a Tempest at higher tiers that you need to do in the Typhoon, because you're not able to turn with people. You have one good turn in that thing, and that's it. And that's been diminished by the fact that it locks up hard at higher speeds, which is where you have to keep this thing. So that is the reason why you don't see a lot of them, not the ammunition. The PB4Y... oh boy, PB4Y. It's preset without bomb load has been removed. Well, hallelujah, praise the Lord. You're going to see PB4Y2s everywhere. No, you're not. It's still useless compared to B-17s and B-29s. I love it when I made that original PB4Y2, the American version. A lot of people said that it was a lot better than what I was saying. Where are they now? Tell me where the PB4Ys are. Tell me where they are. Nobody's flying the damn thing. Guess what? They're flying the B-17s because they're just better. But it's nice to see, at least in your heavy bomber, you can start off with bombs instead of having to research said bombs. The 631 is able to drop 100 kilos separately. That is nice, actually. It is always nice if you can drop them individually. Like on the HU-177, if you could drop the two 1600s individually when you have them on the wings, that would make the plane a hell of a lot better. But unfortunately you can't. So it's nice to see on the 631 we can. The armor piercing value for the Panzer Blitz 2 rockets has been corrected. I haven't actually had a look at that, so maybe it'll make them better or worse, I don't know. Stuff on the X-ray, that doesn't really matter. The Z2 DO17, so we're going full rank 1. They've got rid of the 4250s as the preset, which is a good idea, since that's crazy. The armor's been corrected on the P51 and F82. Hopefully that makes it a little bit more tanky, because right now they get annihilated. But, well, to be honest, like any plane at rank 4, if it gets hit, you're out of the battle. It doesn't matter how much armor you have. The only ones which can soak a lot of rounds are stuff like the A26B, but even then, you are pretty much combat ineffective once you are hit. The LA5FN, okay, that's X-ray again. The guns, so the 20mm on the E4 and the H16 have been changed. Yeah, the cannons. So I believe that's the 20mm, so the ones which are facing forward. Is that going to make these things playable, or used a lot? No. The E4 is not used because of its subpar bomb load, and also on top of it, why would you take the E4 over something like an M1? The H16 is too slow, unfortunately, even though it has a pretty good bomb load. I really like the Heinkels, but they are another example in the game of vehicles which have just been lost with the times. Like, a lot of fighters have been added around the H16, and its BR hasn't changed, it hasn't been lowered, so it just gets annihilated out of the sky. Which is sad, but, well, it is how it is, you know? the mass of the AP rockets have been fixed. I don't think the mass will make a big difference, even if it's higher to load. The thing that would have to be changed to make those incredibly viable is the fact of the spread. Like, they are pretty viable now in ground forces, and in air forces they're great because they one-shot like pillboxes. But yeah, I don't think that will make a big difference. The Spitfire series 1, 2, 5, and 9 armor for the fuel tanks has been fixed. Well, that's nice. Once again, generally when you actually get hit, especially in a Spitfire, your engine just decides that it doesn't want to work anymore. You either get hit in the cooling or the oil. It's very similar to the BF-109 in that sense. So, yeah, it's nice to get some extra armor, but it won't make a difference. That's not the main issue with the Spitfire. It has the same issue as every other fighter in the game. Once you get hit, you become combat ineffective because of how the damage model works on everything. The Potez 630, the type of aircraft has been changed to air defense fighter or heavy fighter. I wonder if that'll actually change its spawn, like if it'll get a air defense spawn instead of a bomber spawn. It still is... Well, I mean, I suppose it helps it, but the issue is that it is cumbersome and heavy and doesn't turn very well. When you compare it to something like a BF-110, it is completely outclassed, and the BF-110 is outclassed by some other stuff that we have already at that BR. A-35, the dropping of bombs from the bomb cradle in AB has been fixed, okay. Characteristics for the C-21 rocket have been fixed. Okay, well that's nothing to really talk about. The Key 102, the icons for ammunition belt have been corrected, well that's nice. They've changed the cannons on the A6M3 Mod 22. They've made them the Mark 1s instead of the Mark 2s. So we're talking about lower velocity. Ooh, those 20mm in general are incredibly low velocity, but if you land them, they're going to tear stuff apart. The Mark 1 has, I believe, slightly more spread and slightly lower muzzle velocity, so that pretty much means that we're going to have more A6M3s, which are going to be spraying all over the place, but that's fine, because the A6M3, it should only really fire once it's right on the tail of a target and annihilating it. The issue is, with stuff like the A6M3 Mod 22, the fact that when you go up against energy fighters, you cannot really do anything apart from just stay alive, like be survivable, which, you know, can help depending on what's on your team, but you're pretty much hoping that people make mistakes instead of you winning the battle. The 30mm shells on the Mark 103 cannon have been corrected. Oh, not again. The Mark 103s are interesting 30mm, and they seem to get changed all the damn time. The last time that they were changed was with the type of ammunition that they could actually hold. The HVAP pretty much completely disappeared. Wait, I just want to make sure. 1, 2, 3. I just want to make sure that this is the right cannon. Instead of... let's see. So this is on the Focke-Wulf 109As, the Kugel, the lighter, which had a shorter barrel. It fired the same projectile. Yeah, so, right, so the Mark 103 was the lighter Mark 108, which had a shorter barrel and used a modified blowback system. It fired the same projectile. Wait, there's a much easier way of doing this. Horton, War Thunder. Because I can't remember which guns are which, like the 103s and the 108s. So the Horton has the fast firing ones. Really? You haven't written it anywhere. Here we go. Right, so the Horton has the 103s. So this change actually means something. The 108s are the lower muzzle velocity ones that you find on stuff like the ME262. So the Mark 103s are the cannons which have been changed over and over again. They had the HVAP belts to start with, and the Hortons were winning air realistic battles in about 2 to 3 minutes, nailing all of the medium and the heavy tanks on the battlefield. when ground forces came around and the Hortons were there, they would annihilate tanks in the same exact fashion. So their belts were changed, and then their armor penetration was changed. Pretty much nerf after nerf after nerf to try and stop the Horton. The Horton is still used. It's definitely not as good as it was before, but it is still used in a very effective way. We're going to have to see the differences to the Mark 103 cannons. If they have better ammunition, or if they have better penetration, but I highly doubt it. The B2, well, they've fixed its bombs. The D3, I mean, great. I really don't care about that. The bomb presets for the Japanese Army and naval aircraft have been fixed. Well, that's good. The name of the 250 has been changed. Characteristics of the Type 2 bomb have been fixed. Well, that's good. That's the biggest change there. They've changed the D4Y3. I actually talked about this in the D4Y3 review I did. The one that we have in game is the CO. It's not just the D4Y3, so it's nice to see that they've changed that. It looks like the F8F1, the 1B, it says the mass of the cannons have been fixed. Oh no, sorry, that's the next bit. The F8F1, 1B, P38L, LO, A36, PV2D, basically a bunch of American planes. They have suspension pods with the DGP-1 machine guns, which have been added. So I should have shown this in the dev server, but you basically have gun pods on all of these aircraft, and each of the gun pods have 250 cals in it. So the F8F1 goes from 450 cals, I believe, to 8. Obviously adds a lot of weight, but it is pretty cool. I think it will be useful on stuff like the PV2D, and of course the SB2Cs, it will make them viable again, and also the SBD3. On some of the fighters, I don't think you need to take them. The Bearcats are already heavy enough in their current state. I don't think you want to make them more heavy and be annihilated even more by Griffin Spitz. So, yeah, it's really nice to see them added. It is a historical addition, but I think you'll only see it on some of the attackers and the bombers that it's added to. The MG 15115s and the 15120, they've changed the mass and the cannons. I don't think it will change that much. Individual launching has been added for the Type 5 No. 6 Mod 9 rockets. I believe that's the Japanese rockets, so I believe they're the ones on the D4s. I might be wrong here, so check yourself. But they wouldn't fire independently. They would fire, two at once. So that would be nice if that's... I mean, the rockets are terrible anyway, but I suppose it's nice. The BB-1 has been moved in the research tree to the SU-2 group. I suppose that makes sense. The 105 has been moved to the SB group. Okay. So that SB group now, for me, will have like 5 aircraft in it. There is a hidden SB that you could only research ages ago. They took it out of the game. I might eventually do a review on it. It's nothing really that different to the other SBs. It's just a rare one that they decided to take out the game at some point. The Series 2, they fixed the crew card, the Bowfighter, defensive machine gun has been corrected to Vickers K. Wow, they actually fixed that after like 3 years? Flippin' heck. Well, that doesn't really help the Bowfighter that much, but it's nice that they've done it. The MiG-3s, the thickness of the rear armor plate has been changed, 6 to 8, oh my. It's 8mm. That might actually kind of help it against like 7.92s. Surprisingly enough. It'll definitely help it against IT rounds, which, the Spitfires and the French use. But I believe they pen less than 6 anyway, so I don't think that would make any difference. The Su-6 AM42, the information of the armor of the fuel tanks has been fixed. Well, that's nice. I actually really enjoyed using that vehicle. I don't think... I mean, it's really good if you get left alone. The issue is getting left alone. On the battlefield. The Swordfish. Possibility of shooting through part of the tail fin with defensive weapons has been fixed. Ah, so they've done this for the IL-2M and the IL-10 as well. I can also do it on the Su-6. I wonder if somebody has put in a dev... not a dev thing, a bug report about it, because you can do it on the Su-6. So yeah, It's nice to see that they're fixing those, though, because it is kind of annoying. Like, you think you're approaching the aircraft and it shouldn't be able to shoot you, and then you see a 20mm from an IL-10 or a 23, whatever it is, be able to shoot through the tail at you. Yeah, that's kind of annoying. For the Italian aircraft that are in the German research tree, the voice dubbing has been changed to a German one. Alright, that's cool. The P-36G Hawk. Okay, so it has 9 cylinders instead of 14. The B-7A2 has the same thing as the other turrets. And the last change for the aircraft, which is kind of a big one, to be honest, is the fact that we have some rocket boosters. So the IL-28 and the Tu-14T have now rocket boosters. These are aircraft which, I believe at least the Tu-14T gets an air spawn. I'm not sure if the IL-28 does, but that means that they're going to be on the battlefield pretty damn quick, and they're going to be out of there pretty damn quick. And also, there could be some shenanigans that you could pull with this stuff, where, like, let's say a plane is getting close to you, ignite the boosters. You ignite the boosters so you have more chance of killing him with your 23s. That could be interesting. The kicker with the rocket boosters is going to be fun as hell. It only has 130 to start with, but if you get the upgraded pack, so it has 230s, I might have to try this out. It's going to be an absolute menace to, you know, to propeller aircraft. But it is limited in other ways, such as the actual guns that it has. And if you get up-tiered, you're screwed, like, even with rocket boosters. But that's interesting to see that they've added that, especially to the kicker. Now, let's have a look at the ground vehicle model, the damage model, the characteristics, and also the weapon changes. So they've added radar to the 23-4, the Vulcan, the Gepard, and the Type 87, the Japanese Gepard. And basically, they've added a lead market, and also to switch you need to first lock the target by pressing select target. After that you will see the lock frame and lead marker. So they're trying to use radar in a positive way in realistic battles. I don't think these machines really need it, but I believe it is historical, and this is probably the best way to implement radar in the game. I don't like the idea of these AA being around the place and being able to spot all the aircraft on the minimap for their whole team, because obviously that would be a massive advantage, especially to experienced players. You would always run an AA in your squad then. But yeah, it's nice to see it's being implemented. It's kind of surprising it's not there for the new French AA, because I believe that new French AA also has a big radar dish on it. Maybe that'll come in the future, since it's new to the game. Maybe they haven't decided whether to do it or not. We have a bunch of changes to rank 5 and 6. So this is the first order ammo rack order thing. You may have seen it in some of the videos that I've done regarding the dev server, especially with the Abrams. When the loader isn't reloading the gun, or isn't doing anything, what he will do is he will replace the ammo that you have used in the turrets with the ammo that is currently in the chassis. So in the form of the Abrams, you have about 25 shells in the ammo rack at the back of the Abrams, the one which can be hit and, you know, cook off and not kill the crew. But what will happen is, if let's say you fire a round and then the loader reloads the gun, after he has finished reloading the gun, he will start a process which he will pick a ammunition from the chassis and put it into the rack at the back. The reason why you would do this in a real life scenario is because obviously the shell is much more accessible to you if it is right next to you, instead of in the chassis of the machine or the hull of the machine. It's harder to get to. So it's nice to see that it's being implemented on a lot of rank 5 and 6 vehicles. I'm very happy that they've not done it with certain vehicles, because a lot of the tactics that I know myself, I use is I take a specific amount of ammo on nearly everything, and the reason for this is to stop my turret being full of ammo. The classic example is some of the German vehicles, so the Tiger 2H. If you take a full load of ammunition on a Tiger 2H and you get penned in the turret, your turret's going to pop because the ammunition is sat at the back of the turret there. So if you take a full load of ammunition, you're going to die. So it's better to take 25 or 20 rounds, so the only ammunition available to the people to shoot is either in the sides of the tank or in the bottom of the tank. Now, with this new mechanic, that gets rid of that. That gets rid of the fact of you trying to negate this by getting rid of certain ammo racks. There is always going to be ammo in the most available position to the loader to load the gun, so there will always be a definite place where ammo is stored in the vehicle. So this means that shooting these should be much easier to do. I have no idea why the 906 has this, because it has an auto loader, but, you know, it is how it is, I suppose. They've changed the ballistics to a bunch of shells. The trajectory has become more flat, speed drop-off has been corrected. This is on a lot of the rank 5 and 6 guns, such as the 152mm on the MBT and the KPZ, the 125 on the T64A, with its 3BM9 and M12 round, which have, at least one of them has the wrong penetration by a hell of a lot. But yeah, so this basically means that you won't be able to loop shots over stuff as easy. They'll fly a lot truer to the target, so it'll mean that you won't have to judge distance as much. But it'll still be quite a, big, it will still be a harder shot to hit, but compared to before, it's easier now. The M60A2, a bug with presence of inaccurate weak zones in the area between the cannon mantler and the turret has been fixed. Okay, so that's a straight buff. The AOS, it's optics, you can't shoot through them anymore. That's another buff. That was annoying. That the thing is, with these new tanks as well, we're going to go through it on Thursday, as I talked about before, but the Abrams, the Challenger, the T64, they all have really glaring weak spots. And this is a trend we've seen in War Thunder, which I'm fine with because it's a realistic trend. But it's nice to see that some of the other vehicles which had these weak spots which were just non-existent don't have them anymore. In the form of the Abrams and the Challenger, they did have these weak spots. But for stuff like this, it's nice to see. So, the M60, they have fixed its armor. I wonder if that'll affect the Magak or not. I mean, maybe. The Pattern 2, the armor layout has been updated. Let's just see the source on this one. Oh, I'm gonna have to sign in, never mind. I won't do that. I'll have to check that. The M48A1s, once again, inaccurate weak areas. So it looks like they've fixed a lot of the shot traps on these vehicles, so that'll be nice to see. The big one for me, the barn, the effect when firing from the cannon and effective shells hitting have been changed. I don't know what it is about the barn, but with this Hess shell, which before would one-shot everything, I haven't been able to one-shot anything, even stuff like T92s. So I'm hoping what they write in the code is that if shell hit, shell kill. Because that is the biggest shell in game. It is a Hess shell, it should annihilate whatever comes across its path. The Baglet Panzer has a bug fixed, which is good. The Type 87, you can actually destruct it now, hull destruction. You can do this on the Gepard too, if you shoot it in the turret, so it's nice to see it is now there on its brother. Thank God they've fixed the damn bug on the 120. So, there was a bug on the 120 where if you destroyed its engine and transmission, so basically shoot it in the front, it wouldn't hull break. And it should hull break. I believe when it was released, it did hull break, but they got rid of it, and I have no idea why. Maybe it was a bug, maybe it was intentional to see what would happen with it, I don't know. But they decided to either, have this bug or not have this bug. Now, the bug is gone, so the hull destruction effect will annihilate the 120 if you shoot it in the front. which is nice, because generally what I did, because I was having issues not penning the turret of it, but it's kind of like with the Tiger II. If you aim for the flatbed of the Tiger II, sometimes you miss, and that is just a thing. Sometimes the Tiger II driver will slightly move his cannon, and you will miss that weak spot. What was happening with the 120 was exactly that for me. I would shoot, the turret, and it would ping off at a weird angle, or he would just suddenly turn, and it would hit the gun instead. So I just ended up just shooting the chassis, keeping him in place, and then annihilating him in the center of it. So it's nice to see that will hull break it now.